My girlfriend said. I want someone women compete to be seen with, not someone quiet like you. I didn't take the bait or start an argument. Months later, she walked past a newsstand and froze after seeing my interview featured under the headline, "The most influential young founder this year." I want someone women compete to be seen with, not someone who disappears in every room he walks into. Everybody at the table went quiet. She didn't say it cruelly. That was almost worse. She said it the way someone states a preference for window seats. Casual, certain, like she'd been holding it a long time and finally decided the weight wasn't worth carrying alone. She wasn't calling me unattractive. She was calling me socially forgettable. I just nodded and kept eating. Months later, she'd stopped dead in front of a newsstand because of a headline she never expected to see. Something shifted after that dinner. I felt it immediately. That specific kind of quiet that moves into a relationship and starts rearranging furniture. Small things. The way she laughed a half-second slower at my jokes. The way she'd scan a room when we walked in together, cataloging who was there before she'd even finished holding my hand. I noticed. I said nothing. That was my mistake. I didn't realize it then, but that moment changed everything. If you enjoy real stories like this, subscribe, because what happened next changed everything for me. I was 28. Paige was 26. We'd been together almost 3 years. At the time, I was building a software company nobody took seriously yet, including, I was beginning to understand, the woman sleeping next to me. Her name was Paige Holloway, and she was the kind of person who made every room feel like an audition. Not performatively. She was genuinely magnetic, sharp, funny, the type who remembered your name and your drink order and made you feel briefly like the most interesting person alive. That quality had drawn me to her completely. It also made her impossible to satisfy quietly. I'd known that about her from the beginning. I just hadn't understood what it would eventually cost me. We met at a product launch in Midtown, one of those events where everyone's handing out business cards they'll never follow up on, and the wine is bad, but the views are exceptional. I was there because my co-founder Colin had dragged me. She was there because she knew everyone. We talked for 40 minutes near the window, and I missed the entire rest of the event. 3 years later, we were at a rooftop dinner in Brooklyn, and she was telling me, in front of our friends, that I didn't command enough attention. The dinner was Evan's idea. 8 people, a rented rooftop space in Williamsburg, string lights, overpriced cocktails, the kind of gathering that photographs well and feels slightly hollow in person. Evan was a marketing director who'd recently started dating someone in finance, and the finance someone had brought 2 colleagues, Preston and a man named Damien, who'd sold his second company at 31 and apparently hadn't stopped mentioning it. Damien was loud in the way that specific kind of successful person gets loud, confident about everything, opinions delivered like verdicts. He had the posture of someone who'd been told he was exceptional enough times that he'd simply accepted it as fact. I was talking to Natalie about a logistics problem we'd been troubleshooting at the company when Paige interrupted from across the table. "Marcus is building an app," she said. Her voice had a particular tone I'd started to recognize. Pride and apology mixed together. "It's very technical." Damien glanced at me. "What space?" "Supply chain optimization," I said. "Specifically, predictive inventory for mid-market retail." He nodded slowly. The nod that means, "That sounds boring, but I'll be polite." "Cool," he said, and turned back to Paige. She caught my eye for just a moment. I looked back at my food. The comment came later, after the plates were cleared and the conversation had loosened. Damien was telling a story about a Forbes interview, how he'd handled a question about failure, how the journalist had called it the most honest answer she'd received all year. "That's the thing about visibility," he said. "Once you have it, people want to hear everything you say, even the stuff that isn't that interesting." Paige nodded like he'd said something profound. Then she looked at me, and something in her expression shifted, not malicious, just honest in the specific way that people get when they've been drinking wine and have stopped filtering. "Marcus is the smartest person I know," she said. "But smart doesn't read across a room." The table went quiet for exactly 3 seconds. "You need a different kind of presence," she continued. "People don't notice quiet. Quiet is invisible." Damien smiled. Not unkindly. More like he agreed and was glad someone had said it. I picked up my glass. "You're probably right," I said. She blinked. I think she'd expected me to argue. When I didn't, something flickered across her face. Frustration, maybe, or the specific disappointment of someone who wanted a reaction and got a shrug. That comment stayed in my head longer than I admitted. 2 weeks later, she said it differently. We were in the apartment. Mine, technically, a one-bedroom in Cobble Hill I'd had since before we met, and she was getting ready for a networking event I wasn't attending. She'd started going to more of them. Different crowd, she said. Good for her work. She was in marketing for a lifestyle brand, and the people she was meeting were investors, founders, social media personalities with audience numbers she'd mentioned like weather reports. You could come, she said. She didn't say it like an invitation. She said it like a test. I've got a call with the series elite at 9, I said. She nodded slowly in the mirror. You're always in a call. The company's at a critical. I know, Marcus. She turned around. I know it's critical. It's always critical. She paused. I just think you've disappeared a little. Like, as a person. Out in the world. I'm building something. Everyone's building something. She picked up her bag. The difference is some people do it and also exist socially. You've just retreated. I didn't have an answer for that. Not because she was wrong exactly, but because her version of existing socially and mine didn't share much territory. She left. I got on the call. At the time, I thought nothing of it. But looking back, that should have warned me. The phone thing started around then. Not hiding it dramatically. She wasn't careless enough for that. But angling it away slightly. Putting it face down when she'd never done that before. New contacts saved as first names only. A new habit of laughing at messages, and when I looked up, she'd have already closed the app. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe I was becoming paranoid. I told myself I was too busy to investigate what might not be real. That turned out to be exactly the wrong call. Colin noticed before I did. We were in the office, a converted loft in Dumbo we shared with 2 other startups, going over the new dashboard prototype, when he stopped mid-sentence and looked at me. Can I say something that's not about the product? No, I said. Paige has been talking to people. I set down the coffee. About what? About you. About the company. He didn't look comfortable. Qley heard something at that event last Thursday. Paige was telling someone, I don't know who, that you were, quote, great on paper but impossible to be proud of out loud. The room was very quiet for a moment. That's a specific thing to say, I said. Yeah. Okay. He waited for more. I didn't give him any. That's it. Okay. What do you want me to do with it, Colin? He shrugged uncomfortably. I don't know. React. Be angry. Something. I'll handle it, I said. I went back to the dashboard. He let me. That wasn't even the worst part. The worst part came 3 days later at a brunch in the West Village. Sophia's birthday. 12 people. The kind of bougie lower Manhattan Sunday situation where everyone arrives slightly hungover and leaves slightly poorer. I was late. Meeting ran long. By the time I got there, the table was deep into conversation and I slid in next to Paige, kissed her cheek, and reached for water. She was mid-story. Something about a rooftop party the previous weekend. And Carter just walks in and the whole room just changed, she was saying. Like, you could physically feel it. That's what presence does. That's what you can't fake. Sophia nodded. Some people just have it. Paige glanced at me. Not unkindly. But the glance said, you understand what I'm describing, right? And you understand you're not it? Carter's the one who sold the agency. Jordan asked. Acquired, Paige said. Twice. He's like, she gestured vaguely, magnetic. Women just orbit him. Men want his approval. It's wild to watch. I drank my water. Rachel, who was sitting across from me and had always been quietly kind, changed the subject. Paige didn't notice she'd done it. I noticed. I didn't say anything. Then something happened I still remember perfectly. On the way home, she said, you're a good guy, Marcus. I looked at her. But good guys don't lead rooms. She wasn't looking at me. She was watching the street. I'm not trying to be cruel. I want things. I want a life that feels like something. And sometimes with you I feel like I'm living very quietly. I'm not trying to live quietly, I said. I'm trying to build something real. I know. She finally looked at me. But nobody can see it. That's the problem. You're doing all this work and the world has no idea you exist, and she stopped. You what? She shook her head. Nothing. Say it. She looked away again. I'm tired of feeling like I'm waiting for a version of you the world will eventually recognize. I stopped walking. She took 2 more steps before she realized and turned around. We looked at each other on the sidewalk on Bleecker Street, and I think we both understood something had cracked. Not broken yet, but structurally compromised. The kind of damage you can see in the foundation before the building comes down. Let's just go home, she said. We did. We didn't talk about it again that night. We should have. The end came 6 weeks later. Not with the dramatic scene. Not with screaming or throwing things or any of the theater that breakup stories usually require. It came on a Tuesday. She came home late. I was still working. She sat down across from me at the kitchen table and put her phone down, face up, for once, and said, "I think I need to be honest with you." I closed the laptop. "I've been thinking for a while," she said. "About us. About what I want." "Okay. I don't think we want the same life, Marcus." "What life do you want?" She thought about it. Genuinely, I think. Like she'd rehearsed this, and my question wasn't on the script. "I want a bigger one," she said. "I want to walk into rooms and feel proud. She paused. "I want someone the world already knows. Someone people compete to be near." "I know that sounds. It sounds like what you said at Evan's dinner." She didn't flinch. "I know. You said it in front of everyone." "I know, Marcus. And you meant it." She held my gaze. "Yes." There was a long quiet. "I think you're remarkable," she said. "I've always thought that. But remarkable in a room by yourself doesn't." She stopped again. "Doesn't what?" "Doesn't feel like enough." She said it softly, like she was apologizing for the math rather than the answer. I nodded slowly. She waited. I think she expected me to argue, to list my case, to remind her what we'd built together, what was coming, what she wasn't seeing. A part of me wanted to, but a larger, calmer part understood something. She wasn't wrong about what she wanted. She was wrong about me, and those were two completely different problems. "Okay," I said. She blinked. "Okay. If that's what you need." You're not going to." "What do you want me to say, Paige?" She opened her mouth, closed it. Something moved across her face that I couldn't quite name. "I thought you'd fight for it," she said finally, quietly. "I'm not going to fight you on wanting something different," I said. "That wouldn't be fair to either of us." She looked at me for a long time. Then she nodded, picked up her phone, stood. "I'll get my things this weekend," she said. "Okay." She stood there another moment, like she was expecting the ending to feel different. Then she left. I sat at the kitchen table for maybe 20 minutes, not thinking about anything specific, just sitting with the particular silence that fills a space after something real has just ended. Then I opened the laptop. There was work to do. The next 3 months are hard to describe without making them sound like a montage. They weren't a montage. They were just long. I woke up early. I worked. I ate poorly and then corrected that. I had hard conversations with investors that sometimes went well and sometimes didn't. I rebuilt parts of the product we'd gotten wrong. I hired 2 engineers who were significantly better than me at the thing they did and had the specific pleasure of watching them solve problems I'd been stuck on for weeks. Colin noticed the shift. "You're different," he said one afternoon. "Different how?" He thought about it. Less distracted. He didn't mean it unkindly. I understood what he meant. I'd been spending energy managing Paige's perception of me. Not dishonestly. Just present in the wrong direction. Aware of myself through her eyes in a way that had quietly drained something. That weight was gone now. I didn't miss it. I didn't let myself miss her, either, not in a disciplined, suppressed way. More that I understood the relationship had ended the way it was supposed to, and grief felt like the wrong response to something that had simply run its course. What I did miss, occasionally, and then less frequently, was the version of myself that had believed I needed to be seen to be real. That version was gone too. Good riddance. What nobody knew, not Paige, not most of our mutual friends, not even Colin's full picture, was what had actually been building. 18 months earlier, we'd closed a seed round. Small. Enough to move. I hadn't talked about it. Not on social media, not at dinners, not at networking events where people performed their wins like theater. I'd been raised by a man who believed the loudest thing you could do was your work, and I'd internalized that maybe too completely, but I didn't think the answer was performing progress I hadn't finished yet. The seed round led to 6 months of rebuilding the core algorithm. That rebuild led to 3 enterprise pilots. 2 of the 3 pilots expanded. We started hitting numbers that made investors pay attention in a different way. Not this is interesting attention, but we need to move fast attention. The series had closed 4 months after Paige left. $12 million. I told Colin over sandwiches in the Dumbo office. He stared at me. "You're telling me over sandwiches?" "We're eating sandwiches." "Marcus, it's not done yet. It's $12 million. I know what it is." He laughed. Not a happy laugh. More the laugh of someone who'd been quietly believing in something for a long time and had just been handed evidence that he wasn't crazy. We kept working. Then Blake called. Blake ran a tech publication that had started as a newsletter and somehow become the thing every founder under 40 read on Tuesday mornings. We'd met twice at events, had a mutual respect based on minimal interaction, and I'd given him nothing because I'd had nothing presentable to give. "I want to do a profile," he said. "On what?" "On you. The company. What you've built." He paused. "Marcus, you're about to be the most interesting story in this space, and you don't seem to know it." "I know it," I said. "I just don't need to talk about it yet." "Talk about it now," Blake said, "before everyone else does it less accurately." We went back and forth. I agreed to it, eventually, because the company was at a stage where visibility was no longer something I was avoiding out of preference. It was something the business actually needed. Investors, enterprise clients, talent pipeline. The story had to exist somewhere public. The interview took 3 hours. It ran the following month. I didn't see the newsstand. I was upstate for a weekend. First real break in months, a friend's cabin in the Catskills, 2 days of nothing, when Vanessa texted me a photo of the cover. Then Jordan. Then 3 people I hadn't spoken to in a year. Then my phone stopped being manageable, and I put it in a drawer and went for a walk through trees and thought about nothing. The headline was Blake's doing, not mine. The most influential young founder this year. I thought it was a little much. But the piece itself was accurate. That mattered more. I heard about the newsstand from Rachel. She called me on a Wednesday afternoon, 3 weeks after the piece ran, and she was trying very hard not to sound the way she sounded. "I need to tell you something," she said. "And I'm only telling you because I think you'd want to know, and also because it's kind of a lot." "Tell me." Paige saw the magazine. The cover. She was at a newsstand on 6th Avenue, apparently, and Sophia was with her, and Rachel paused. Sophia said she just stopped. Completely froze. Stared at it. I didn't say anything. She apparently picked it up, and then put it back down, and then picked it up again, Rachel continued. And then she was very quiet for the rest of the afternoon. "Okay," I said. "That's all you've got?" "Okay. What else would I say?" Rachel was quiet for a second. Sophia also said Paige has been asking about you. To mutual people. Casual questions. How you're doing, whether you're seeing anyone. I looked out the window of the office. Afternoon light. Colin across the room. Headphones in, not listening. "I hope she's well," I said. And I meant it. Rachel made a sound. "You're infuriating, you know that." "So I've been told." She called 2 weeks later. Not a text. An actual call, which felt like a statement. I let it ring twice before answering. "Hey," she said. "Hey." A pause. "I saw the article. I heard. It was, Marcus, it was incredible. The company, everything you've built. I had no idea it had gotten to that. You knew what I was working on." "I knew the idea. I didn't know the scale. I didn't know about the Series A or the enterprise contracts or any of." She stopped herself. Recalibrated. "I just wanted to reach out. I wanted to say I'm proud of you. Genuinely." "Thank you," I said. Another pause. Longer. "How are you?" she asked. "Good. Really good, actually." "Are you?" She started, and then stopped. "Am I what? Seeing anyone?" There it was. I almost smiled. "I've been focused on the company," I said. Which was true. Right. Her voice shifted slightly. Just slightly. "Of course." "How are you?" I asked. And I meant that genuinely too. "I'm good." She paused. "I've been thinking a lot, actually. About things I said. About how I." "Paige." "Yeah. You were honest," I said. I respected that. I still do. She was quiet. "You wanted something specific," I said. "That wasn't wrong. I paused. "We were in different places." "You were exactly where you needed to be," she said softly. "I just couldn't see it." "I know." Another silence. Longer than the others. "I should let you go," she said. "Take care of yourself," I said. "You too." She hung up first. I sat with the phone in my hand for a moment. Then set it down. Opened the laptop. Went back to work. Damien texted me that same week, actually. Wanted to grab coffee, talk about potential synergies. Used the word synergies unironically. I told him I had a full calendar, but to follow up in Q2. He followed up. I had a full calendar. The strangest part of that entire season wasn't the article. Wasn't the calls or the texts or the sudden attention from people who'd been vague acquaintances for years. Wasn't even the specific satisfaction of knowing that the work had been real all along, that the quietness had been worth it. The strangest part was realizing I'd been building in the right direction the whole time. Not for recognition. Not to prove something to a woman who'd told me I was socially invisible. I'd been building because the problem was real and the solution was good, and that mattered. The recognition was a consequence, not the point. Paige had seen my silence and read it as absence. It was never absence. It was just a different kind of presence. One that didn't require an audience to be real. I ran into her once more. A conference in Midtown, 6 months after the article. Big annual industry event. The kind with keynotes and sponsored cocktail hours, and people pretending to be less excited about meeting each other than they are. I was there to speak. Not to attend. To speak. She was there with someone from a panel she was moderating. Her brand had expanded. She was doing more public-facing work. She looked well. She looked genuinely happy. We saw each other across the atrium. She smiled. I nodded. She started walking over, and I met her halfway. "You're speaking today," she said. "First slot after lunch. I'll try to catch it." She paused. "You look good." "You too." A beat. Around us, people moved. A few looked over, recognizing me from the article, probably, or from the panels I'd been doing. A woman near the registration desk glanced twice. Someone I'd never met touched my arm to say hello and moved on. Paige watched that. I didn't watch her watching it. "I'm glad it worked out," she said. Her voice was genuine. "Thanks, Paige. I mean that." She nodded slowly, like she was filing something away. Then someone called her name from across the atrium, and she turned. "I'll see you around," she said. "Take care," I said. She walked away. I stood there for a moment. Around me, the conference moved and buzzed, people in good suits having important conversations, the particular energy of a room full of people who'd built real things and knew it. I felt none of the things I'd expected to feel. Not triumph. Not sadness. Not the satisfaction of a score being settled. Just quiet. The good kind this time. The kind that doesn't need to be explained to anyone. She finally saw me the way she always wanted the world to see her. She just wasn't standing beside me anymore.